All right. What is up, guys? It is BitBoy from BitBoy Crypto here, and I am joined by Steve from Hack Crypto. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, we'll give everybody a chance to get on. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I pull up the chat. So if you see me looking down at my phone, it's because I'm following the chat here. And I'm sure we'll have like some questions and different stuff like that. Obviously, when the market is not doing well, the people that show up have questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess first, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into crypto, how you started your channel, and things like that.
All right, cool. So, back in 2013 in February, I was going to a program in Boston with some friends, and we were walking around outside of the MIT Sloan School of Business, and there was a sign outside on like a street pole that said "Stick it to the banks, buy Bitcoin." And I was like, "What's this Bitcoin thing?" And we were working out of the Cambridge Innovation Center and went in and we started figuring out like how to mine it back when CPUs were just becoming pretty unprofitable. So we figured out how to do it. And then the kind of testament of me going fully into it was when I had to explain it to my parents. So I was like, "Hey, mom and dad, this is what Bitcoin is." And they were like, "Okay, if you can simplify it for us, maybe you can simplify it for people our age, people, all over the place that are just trying to understand." So that was kind of the birth of Hack Crypto, the concept of hacking your crypto education and just simplifying everything down. And been creating content since 2014, but really dove into YouTube probably about 2 years ago, just on various other channels, and then centralized it all probably mid to early last year when everything was just going nuts, and just moved it all into one central place, and things kind of took off from there. Everybody was reaching out and very supportive, and I love the creator community has been really great. Like everybody's kind of on this wild roller coaster together, so it's fun to talk and go to conferences and meet up. But that's just a like boiled down version of how I got in and how I centralized the channel.
Yeah, that's good. So you start out by kind of like it sounds like explaining to people what crypto is in like a real simple way. Is that kind of been something you've kept as a theme for your channel?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So it started with the basics of like understanding, Bitcoin, understanding mining, and then I saw a really big pull towards mining. So I started creating more content around projects that were, proof of work focused, and then started doing content around mining. And currently, I'm doing a series on masternodes. So kind of shifting pace because proof of work mining is is not so hot right now.
No, it's not. Or maybe too hot.
Yeah,
It's a little bit
yeah,
too much energy, right?
yeah, exactly. That's it. Well said. Too hot. It's
Yeah.
too hot. Some people are pulling their plugs, and I just started kind of moving around because people were really interested in like nice hash and honey miner and stuff like that, like simple ways to get into mining. And that's definitely changed over the past 6 months. So I decided to start doing this new series with 10 masternodes, where I partner with all 10 projects and show the progress and setup over 10 months or 3 months, 3 to 6 months, I guess. So 10 projects over 3 months. And we just go through everything. So, like, the guts and everything of these projects to make sure that everybody understands what they're getting into. And it's, I enjoy it just because it's kind of like guiding a ship with the help of the community. Like they kind of let you know what they're interested in,
Yeah.
which I've always enjoyed. That's the magic of YouTube is like communicating and talking to people, in the comments and everything. It's pretty
And
cool.
and always trying to figure out, like sometimes you have an idea for a video and you make the video and nobody watches it and it kind of sucks. You're like, "Oh man, I had this great idea." But when you really start trying to figure out like you got to cater to what your audience wants and what they want to hear, then that's when your videos get more successful and then you get more of a voice, and then you can talk about maybe something else down the road if you want to talk about it, something else, and you'll still get the views and stuff because I mean, we're not creating content for our health here, you know? So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, guiding it. And it is kind of in the spirit of like all these decentralized projects like DAOs and stuff like that, where you have community driven development. Like it is kind of a fun concept to bring that into a channel where, I do polls every week on the community tab. I don't know if you've been taking advantage of
yeah,
that.
I do
Like
sometimes.
it's such good visibility. YouTube is just really pushing those up in the ranks. So I put out these polls and ask people, like, what do you guys want to
Yeah.
see? Do you want to see mining content, masternode content? And it's just a fun way of kind of crowdsourcing the type of content. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So speaking of outsourcing or crowdsourcing our content, had a couple of people already ask me about Ethereum Classic. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, and then I'll also have a video hopefully coming out tonight or maybe in the morning where I'm going to detail that. It's a lot of people think Ethereum Classic is dead as of today, and I don't think that's the case. So the long and the short of it is ETC Dev or Dev ET, it's Dev ETC was the main developer of Ethereum Classic, and they basically quit today. So, but IOHK is still actually a developer on that project, but they're busy, so don't really know what they'll do. But that's a quick overview for everybody what's going on with Ethereum Classic. But you guys make sure to watch my video I put out a little bit later on that. So, okay, so you talked about proof of work, and I want to talk about this with you because we touched on it. It is a little bit of a hot button issue right now with the environmental concerns. And speaking of Charles Hoskinson, he actually just had an article he put out a couple weeks ago where he talked about that's his biggest regret is working on proof of work. He wish he would have changed it for the environment. What are your thoughts? Do you think this thing is like totally overblown? Do you think this is like a legitimate concern? Do you think this is just, a lot of people with hot air that want to make an issue out of something? What do you think about that?
Yeah, good question. So, and also that's crazy about Ethereum Classic. Thanks for the update on it. That's wild. With the proof of work kind of dilemma, I think that it is very energy focused, and it does kind of incentivize people to just pile on more resources onto just, it's almost like a faceless entity that just keeps piling GPUs and ASICs onto mining. And that's just not something that the community really wants. So, for example, with this new Masternode series, I partnered with Bitcoin Green. And Bitcoin Green is effectively just a proof of stake version of Bitcoin. So it's powered by masternodes, and there's no mining to it. It's just masternodes getting rewards and helping, keeping the integrity of the chain. So it's a really cool concept, just because it's like a green concept of it, where they're partnering with like sustainability foundations and stuff like that. But I do think it is blown out of proportion with the current BTC of proof of work, where if you look at the whole, for example, the finance industry, it's something like 1,000 times the amount of energy consumption that it takes for the regular financial industry that no one talks about. So it is just sort of a drop in the bucket, and everybody kind of points to the negative pieces of it during kicking it while it's down, if you will. But yeah. I do think
certainly down.
Yeah. I think proof of work is it's always been really fascinating to me, where there are these big centralized parties that are controlling a lot of hash rate, but at the same time, the mom and pop can get involved with a graphics card and set up a little rig in their house or in Venezuela or wherever you want to set it up. And I found that to be pretty unique and pretty freeing in its own way, where you can generate your own currency using, computing power. So I thought that was cool, but at the same time, I think it's blown out of proportion with like how much damage it's doing in the carbon footprint. But like I said, with Bitcoin Green, there's all these other projects that are trying to address it, and who knows where, those innovations will plug into Bitcoin in the future. So.
Do you think Bitcoin is going to have to adapt another consensus method?
I'd like to think that. I'd like to think so. I think it would be really cool to see some sort of hybrid happen in the future, where there's hundreds of these proof of stake projects kind of coming into the space and proving out what they're doing. And I'd love to see the core developers look at that and say like, okay, this does actually, present some interesting data that we could maybe like use some sort of hybrid. Who knows what it'll come out with, but I do think that proof of work, the way that it sits right now, where if I just buy 100 more cards than the next person, um, it just doesn't really seem like it can scale. But I know there's a lot of people out there like Seth Estrada and all these experts at mining that would argue about it. But I do think that things that are ASIC resistant that are coming out, like Raven Coin with the ASIC resistant algorithm.
And aren't they trying to, aren't they, or didn't they already make Monero ASIC resistant, or they're trying to?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Those are really pretty interesting because the whole like progression of where it's like the CPU, the GPU, the ASICs, and then these FPGA cards, like all these kind of progressions are just sort of the evolution of the space. So like for example, I had 40 RX 580 8 GB cards running on Ethereum, and then I had to switch it off to Raven Coin, and then had to switch it off to Monero, just to avoid all of these. Like it's like going through a minefield. So it's tricky. We'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. So speaking of mining, recently there was an article put out about the decrease in difficulty. Do you know anything about the difficulty decreasing lately?
Yeah, I saw on November 1st, it was like an 18% drop.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like one of the biggest drops in history for Bitcoin. Was that so many people have jumped off of it. And yeah, I saw that. It was pretty mind-boggling that it was 18%.
Yeah, I know. So apparently the second biggest dump ever was 15%, and that was in 2011. So if people are looking for some kind of hope in this bear market that we're in right now, that's what I would point to, because the last time that it dipped over 15% or around 15% or more, it was at $2, and then within 60 days it went all the way up to $5. So that would be nice at this point. That would put us, about at $10,000. Not saying that'll happen for sure, but there is some precedent for when the mining difficulty decreases. And I just remember looking back when we were around the $6,000 line, and there was the $6,000 mining theory. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, where it was like the cost to produce one, it would have been negative if it went below the 6,000 mark. And I also saw that it was like very highly dependent on how much you're paying in electricity, right? Like I think China's primary baseline was like around the lower 3K mark, but then here in the US, I think it was the 6K mark. Could be completely off with that, but I do know that 6K was a pretty substantial hit to the mining community when we went below that.
Yeah, I just remember talking to a lot of other influencers when I was at Litecoin Summit out in San Francisco. Where are you located at? Aren't you?
I'm in San Francisco.
Did you come to that?
I didn't. I was out of town.
You gotta be kidding me.
I know.
I knew I didn't see you there.
Everybody was messaging me while I wasn't there, and I was like, I'm out of town.
Man, that's terrible. So, but I was on a panel with a bunch of influencers there, and we were talking about it, and this $6,000 thing got brought up, and they're like, oh no, there's nothing to that. Like, that's not really true. If the price dropped down below 6,000, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And we're seeing it is true. There has been a huge drop in people mining, and people don't talk about like, they're reverberating effects from this. If you look at NVIDIA, they during the bull run up production like a ton, and now they're sitting with a bunch of units that they can't sell, which is, it's kind of good for people that may want to get into mining. You might be able to get them at a discounted price, but NVIDIA already bought so many at a certain price, they can't even discount them that much. So I think that this is really, not just bad for the miners, but it could be bad for the overall markets, because when you've got a company like NVIDIA that's basically investing into crypto and now has got burnt a little bit, I don't think that's good. What do you think?
Yeah. There were people that were way overextending themselves in the mining space. Like I I know I read an article about a group in Seattle that they had put something like $100 million into a farm there, and within the time frame where it went below 6K, they had to not only shut down, but they owed 7 million on like everything that they had. So it was not only were you bankrupt, but you were, in debt
Yeah.
7 mil. So I do think that yeah, it's a lot of people don't really think. I guess newcomers, it's kind of our jobs to educate people on the importance of mining and the importance of it in the ecosystem. But a lot of people don't really think about those metrics that you were talking about, of like where it needs to kind of stay above water in order to not slide off of a cliff, like what we're watching right now, where if thousands of farms are taking off their, or thousands of pools are taking off their rigs, you're looking at a landslide on
Yeah.
price. If that's what you're watching, if you're watching price, you need to kind of prepare for impact when the rigs get turned off.
Yeah, it's not good news, everything that's been
Yeah,
going
it's
on right
bad.
now. And I think, the fact that we dropped below, I guess we can talk about the markets for a little bit. The fact it dropped below 4,000 today is not a good sign. A lot of people were pointing and saying that, if it went in between 4 and 4.2, as long as it kind of stayed there for a little bit and stabled off, that, we might be on the way back up. But now that it's dipped back below 4, people are acting like this is the apocalypse, So
Yeah.
there's a thread on Twitter that lists like 15 reasons why this bear market is actually going to end up being worse than 2014, the one that began there. Which, you
Huh.
know, when you start seeing all this stuff that's like so negative, it I don't know. I've just always believed the more negative stuff there is, you got to think you're close to the bottom, because you look at the inverse of that. Like when we were in the bull run and we were in January, even when the market started going down, like everybody was positive, like, oh yeah, it's going to come right back. It's going to come right back. Yeah, 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 yeah. And then all of a sudden it just all turned negative. And I think we're starting to see the same thing where there's so much negativity around, so much salt on Twitter, people being angry. We were talking about before we came on air, like just, getting bad comments and, people being angry and losing money and frustrated and things like that. It's kind of hard to watch, but when you see all that, it's got to make you think like, okay, surely we've got to get close, because how much more angry can people get right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I have quite a few tabs that I have bookmarked from Reddit that I go back to, where people were just livid at the market back after Mount Gox
Hmm.
happened, and people were just so mad. And it's not verbatim, but it's very close to what people are saying now,
Yep.
where you are right that when people are so frustrated and they're capitulating, it is a very dark time. And it's crypto Twitter is such an interesting place
It
where
is.
the jokes have slowed down quite a bit, just because everyone's being kind of empathetic towards the situation, because it is, people that came in and maybe took out a loan, or they were not in a financially stable position to invest, did, and those people are in a bad spot right now. So I think that it is a it is a dark time, but very similar to what happened back then. All the same kind of tweets, all the same kind of comments.
Hmm.
It will pass. It's just mathematically just going to pass. so so it's just really just getting there, and I think it feels good to be in the creator community where we're still driving forward. As long as you keep uploading and you're informing people, I think that is what keeps us all together, keeps us all going. Just getting a positive spin on it, and that's why I was shout out to Crypto Love out there. He was such a good edutainer, and you
Oh,
are
there you go.
too.
Yeah, thank you. I
You
appreciate
guys
that.
are all great edutainers, and it's good to see that positivity still, no matter the price, coming out, putting smiles on people's faces.
Well, it can't get much worse. I mean, even if we were to drop into like the high ones, like around 2000, like to me, we're already at the emotional bottom. You know what I mean? Like, because at that point, the people that are the most bitter are the people that bought in like in January or February, and they're so wrecked that going down from 3,000 to 2,000 isn't going to do much to make them even worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is the people that are dollar cost averaging in, you know, they'll be hurt a little bit when we drop down. But listen, guys, if you guys ever see me stop making videos, you guys just need to go to your bunker, because it's going to be, that's a bad situation, because somehow I still manage to be positive in all of this. And you know what? Here's the thing. My story in crypto is one of regret, you know, because I bought it in 2012. A lot of people on my channel know it's just I was buying a software and they required Bitcoin, and I got into it, and just basically it seemed like overnight. It wasn't overnight, but I started buying it $12, $13, and it seemed like overnight. Like all of a sudden I looked and I had thousands of dollars in my account when I didn't put nearly that much in to begin with. You know, it was just like almost like if you went and clicked your Binance dust, and all of a sudden it was worth like, you know, $3,000. That's what it was like for me. And I sold out, and I ended up selling out right before Mt. Gox crashed. So if I wouldn't have sold out, I still would have ended up losing all my money in Mt. Gox, because I didn't understand the concept of having a wallet or why you would want to do it and stuff like that. But, you know, I've been through all this. Like, I saw that bear market, you know, I saw how bad it was. I've been through two now. And while I haven't been hugely invested the entire time, is like I look back on those times where things were so negative, and I kind of stopped paying attention, you know? And so with this one, we've already been through this so many times. Like, I know what's on the other side of this. And the fact that people can be this invested in crypto, where they're watching our videos every day, and, you know, whether they've been in it for a year, 6 months, or whatever, but like we're telling you, like, listen, this is a cycle. We're in a cycle that we've seen before. Like, that's why I don't get discouraged. I'm just like, thank God that I have the opportunity to buy back in for the altcoins, the rates that I missed last year, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of it, we talked about it on a live stream the other day, I think, with Crypto Zombie, and then it was like pulling the institutional money is pulling the train back to them that they thought they missed.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
well said. Well said. Pulling it back.
Yeah. And I think eventually the institutional money is going to want it to, you know, turn around, but I don't know when that's been. What do you think about this? And, well, Bitcoin Ben was in the chat with us. What's up, buddy? Guys, I had my Wi-Fi on my phone was messed up, so I missed a bunch of comments, but I do see them. If you guys want to ask any questions, drop some questions. We'll probably hit up questions in about, you know, 5 to 10 to 15 minutes, somewhere like that. But I forgot my train of thought. I forgot what I was talking about.
Shout out to Bitcoin Ben.
Yeah, I shouted out to him, but it when you forget your train of thought, it's always the thing before the thing you can remember. And it's the other person as well. They can only remember what that was. But I was going to ask you something about the bear market. Okay, this is it. A lot of people are predicting that even if we came close to bottom, that we're going to sit stagnant for months and months and months. And it won't be until like the middle of next year until the markets turn around. But for me, I look at that and I say, okay, if we go back down again, and we go down to like we touch 3, like, don't you think at that point there will be enough to bounce it back up? Or do you think that's the truth? We're just going to sit around basically in between 3 and 5 for, you know, 4 to 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like technical analysis is concerned, I'm far from an expert.
I don't do TA either. Definitely. I drew a dinosaur on a chart one time.
yeah. What was it? The Bart head, where it's the Simpsons character Bart, and it's like a bunch of Barts going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, upside down and right side up, just Barts going back and forth. That so definitely like elementary education. Crypto Wendy O has like done a good job of like kind of sharing her expertise, and I follow her pretty closely. But yeah, I think as far as price goes, I think that there is light at the end of the tunnel when you do see people and these trends happening where, you know, Jamie Dimon bashing and then buying, George Soros bashing and buying. When you see those types of trends in the financial space, because my background was in finance, that is like a very, very big signal for the future. So whether, you know, we bounce between 3 and 6K for the next like 6 months. I do think that it's important to identify that, like, I think it was Mark Moss was saying that these people have been planning for a year plus what they're doing now and what they're getting ready for. So I would think of it as, like you said, that as long as people are just buying very consistently, like Coinbase has that feature where you can recurring payments or recurring purchases. I love that feature. Like that is one that I recommend for everyone because you can buy $5 every week, $10 every week. And it takes the kind of the sheer terror out of the volatility for you. If you're, watching price consistently, that is by far the best way to kind of at least settle your stomach when you're watching price go up and down so much. But speaking of stagnation, I saw on Twitter, I don't know if you saw it earlier, but $125 million worth of Bitcoin moved out of a stagnant address this morning, and it had been stagnant for like...
It was one of the top 20 addresses.
Yeah. I saw that, and I was like, uh-oh.
It was 66,000 Bitcoins got moved.
Yeah.
That's like $25 million.
Oh, 25 million?
I think so, because I think somebody was talking about buying 1,500 and it was 6 million. I'm just trusting their math. I don't know if that's right or not, but then that would make, if that's right, then that would make that somewhere around 24 million. Yeah, it's gosh, somebody said in my advertising for Coke now. 2 live streams in a row, I drink a Coke. Okay, you guys chill. All right. I was supposed to start keto today and go to the gym, and then I couldn't find my pre-workout, so I had to push it off to tomorrow. So I had to have one last Coke, enjoy the refreshment, and then I knocked it over, so now it's all fizzy. But yeah, so it's just like a really volatile time in the markets overall, and the volatility is what we love when it's on the way up, and what we hate when it's on the way down. And so, any way that people can hedge their crypto in order to maybe not lose so much on the downside, whether it's stop losses or whatever it might be. Everybody's got their own, their own techniques. Like, what do you do for your crypto to try to, when the markets are crashing, to kind of hedge it a little bit?
Yeah, good question. So I mean, for example, from January all the way till now, I mean, I've been buying all the way down.
Yeah.
Just because I believe in the space, as do you, and as do I'm sure a lot of the viewers. But I think that I definitely try and buy on a consistent basis. So whether it's weekly, like through Coinbase, or just whenever, buy the dip. I think that's definitely one of my favorite sayings in the space, because it is very, very true. Like, whenever you see a dip, just buy it. I mean, I don't think that by the end of next year, it's going to matter if you bought it at $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, because you're going to be very happy, regardless of where we're at. Especially if some of these people like, John McAfee and the Winklevoss and Tim Draper, if they're even 80% wrong, then
we're still doing pretty good.
We're still doing extremely good. So, as far as what I do personally, I just buy consistently. And I definitely have been getting more into storage. That's why it was fun talking to Crypto Stash, because going back and forth with storage, I saw you're getting into the Cool Wallet. That was really interesting. I looked that up, and I really like the different types of storage. Like, I've been working with the blockchain.com guys. They're here in San Francisco. I go up there and hang out with their team and talk about their lockbox that they just came out with. They partnered with Ledger, and I've been really interested in storage. I think that's like recurring buying and moving that into cold storage is a winning strategy, in my opinion.
You just wait. This week, I'm doing a video on security of your crypto, and people do not realize how unsafe they are. I'm trying to push this video a lot because I really want people to see this. I really feel like everybody needs to see this video that I'm going to put out. Here's a little teaser, guys. There's virtually no way at all. Let me rephrase that. There's absolutely zero way you can prevent someone from hacking into your phone. 0%. You cannot stop it. Doesn't matter what you tell your phone company. Doesn't matter what protections you put in place. There's 0% chance that you can keep your crypto safe if it's stored using 2FA from your phone somewhere. So I'll give that little teaser for people, and you guys be sure to check that out. I'll be talking a lot more about cold storage on my channel as well, because that's the safest way to store your crypto. When I make this video, people are going to be shocked. It is going to be absolutely insane, the stuff that I've covered that's going on with the phone companies that you're not going to find anywhere else, I don't think. I've never seen anybody go as in-depth as I'm going to go in with it. So I definitely think moving stuff over to, a cold storage wallet is by far, your best course of action. I think, another thing, if you're just going to buy Bitcoin and you're just going to buy, stuff that's on Coinbase, I mean, people give Coinbase a bad rap, but it is insured up. They're up to $250,000. So Coinbase is another option where you are relatively safe, but you still got to count on them to honor that. But,
Yep.
And you don't have your private keys and yada, yada, yada. But if somebody were to hack in there and steal it, that's one place where you might actually be protected. But there's absolutely no way to keep people from from porting your phone number. So,
yeah. The phone is definitely probably the easiest point of entry for hackers. Like, there's quite a few exploits out there, that are publicly available, like the SIM swaps. I got SIM swapped earlier this year, and that was a nightmare scenario to go through. And I'm with T-Mobile, so I had to go through there, and they were like, "Yeah, nothing's wrong other than the fact that you changed your SIM card at 4:30 a.m. this morning." And I was like, "Oh, that's not weird." But yeah, on that note, with back to another shout out to Crypto Wendy O. She said that her, because she lost her phone at World CryptoCon in Vegas, she said that she uses a cell phone that is not connected to Wi-Fi or a network for the Google Authenticator app.
Yeah.
So literally like a non-connected device for just the Authenticator app, separate from her normal phone, which I thought was kind of it's almost like a TV remote for unlocking your your.
And I'm considering doing a part 2 of the video as well. I don't know. I may make it a whole series because it's so interesting. And like I said, when people understand what's going on with these phone companies, your jaws are going to drop. I promise. And just yesterday when I started really digging into all this stuff yesterday morning, and my wife was like, "What is wrong? I see your wheels turning." And I'm like, "We're not safe. I thought we were safe. We are not safe." Started freaking out. And so I go to the Falcons game yesterday, and I come home, or it was a terrible game. That's a long story. But I'm walking out of the stadium, and all of a sudden I get an email from Netflix saying my Netflix email address had changed. Somebody just at the Falcons game had managed to fish into my cell phone and got into my Netflix account. And I was so scared before I got home. I was like changing passwords on everything and, whatever. But the truth is, if they have your phone number, it doesn't matter if you change passwords, if it's all connected to your regular phone. So I did some kind of tricky stuff with my phone number as well over the last couple of days. We're not going to talk about it right now, but did some kind of tricky stuff. So it'll be much harder for that to happen. But there's definitely ways that you can disconnect your identity from your phone. And that's the key. Because I was talking to the Netflix guy yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, well, if you want to, fix your account, all you got to do is we can have you set up what's called 2-factor authentication, and then we can send you a code straight to your phone." I was like, "Ha, ha, ha, ha. That's what you think. But what if they have my phone number?" We've been tricked by the telephone companies to think that the closest thing tied to our identity is our phone number. And that's made us so vulnerable. People have no idea how vulnerable it's made us. And so if you can find a way to untwist your identity from your phone number that's tied to your phone bill, then you might have a chance at keeping stuff safe. Because if you use a regular T-Mobile phone, a Sprint phone, a Verizon phone, an AT&T phone, any major carrier for your 2FA, I got bad news for you. You are going to be hosed one day. It's only a matter of time. And these phone companies are so negligent. They're so
Mhm.
negligent about this. There's a $224 million case that's going on right now between Michael Turpin, who's the founder of he's a blockchain entrepreneur. He lost $24 million in a SIM card hack after he went to the corporate office and had a meeting with them on how they can protect his account. The phone company still let somebody do it to him. And so he's
Yeah.
suing the crap out of them. And I want to get into so much of it right now, but I'm not going to. Y'all are going to have to watch the video. So, but that's cool. You're getting into storage. What's your favorite? What's your favorite wallet?
Uh, right now, it's definitely the Lockbox by Blockchain Wallet. I've been using Blockchain Wallet for years. The kind of interesting story behind them was that Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, and I forgot his last name, was the CEO of blockchain.com and used to be blockchain.info, but they were on their way to Y Combinator, which is like a startup accelerator here in Silicon Valley. And on their way there, they had like a little bit of a disagreement where Brian Armstrong of Coinbase said, I want to be the face of a custodial service. Like I want to allow anyone and everyone to get crypto, which is an amazing business. And then Ben from Blockchain Wallet, he said, actually, I want everyone to have their private keys instead. I don't want to interface with the banks. So they split ways. And they used to be kind of co-founders, and then I think Roger Ver got involved in both of them. And yeah, I've been using blockchain. Used to be .info, now it's .com. Their wallet for a while, and now that they're out with the lockbox, I'm loyal to them because you have your keys, and if you don't have the keys, you don't have the coins. And I'm definitely a big fanboy of them. And I think it's like 30 million addresses is what they have. So they have almost the same as Coinbase. I don't know what Coinbase is kind of touting now with their level, but I think that they're very comparable for user base size.
Somebody said in the chat that this is back to what we were talking about a second ago. Coinbase is FDIC on US dollar, but not on crypto. That's really interesting. I didn't know that. I'd have to look that up. I don't know. Does that mean that they would only honor the amount that you lost in US dollars, or does that mean that if it's in crypto and not in your US dollar wallet there, that you wouldn't be able to get it back? But they don't even. Do they still have the USD wallet, or do they make? I think they make you get the Coinbase coin now. I think.
Yeah, the stable coin.
Yeah, the stable coin.
I'm not sure, but I mean, they couldn't have come out. I love Coinbase and love what they're doing. They brought more people into crypto than
That's true.
anyone, and they're bringing out that stable coin was, I won't say in perfect timing, but it was very, very, very good timing that anyone that was panicked and was gonna cash out into US dollars now could move it into the stable coin while the market's crashing. Don't recommend doing that. don't sell. But
do you use stable coins?
I don't. I don't. Really. But
I've done it a couple times and I've lost every time I've used them. It's been a failure. I go back. I tell the story sometimes. One time I used it was when Binance went down for a day. It was back in, I think, July, maybe. No. It was in early March, and Coinbase or Binance went down. Like there was an internal bug that they had, and so I was like, "Oh my gosh, Binance is down. This price is gonna plummet." The price had already dropped a little bit, and so I moved everything over. As soon as I moved it over, it started moving back up. It's just like that seems like every time I do that with a stable coin. That's why I just use BTC. If I'm gonna move over. One BTC equals one BTC. And of course, now in the bear market, people are making fun of that. But to me, it's true, Yeah.
So. Yeah. And like you said before, you and I have witnessed this, and a lot of people in probably viewing this have witnessed multiple bears before. So it's not the end. It's nowhere near the end. It's just the beginning. And I think that getting that out into the universe as much as possible
Yeah.
because people really, um, it's the same thing as what it was back then. Was people were saying, "Oh, it's dead." I'm selling at $5, and yeah, it's really important to stay positive and just think long-term thinking, not short-term thinking, because that's how the wealthy get wealthier, is thinking long-term. You gotta really think in longer increments of time, for sure.
Well, I think that it all boils down to this. In 2014, when the market crashed, it was because of Mt. Gox. I remember going and logging into Mt. Gox one day and seeing the huge Chinese message and having no idea what it said, And I don't know that I can't remember if they had it translated on the site or if you had to translate it off site. Got an email about it. It was like all in Chinese, had no idea what it was. And when I found out that it crashed and all these people had lost money, and I know you had sent me that thread I had seen before from Reddit, the guy that's like, yeah, I lost 4,500 Bitcoins. Do you think I'm going to be okay? That's wrecked right there. But I mean, I was close to, losing a lot of money in that. And, luckily I am getting $100 in dust back from Coinbase or from Mt. Gox
Nice.
from the
And
bankruptcy thing. So
you were using Charlie Shrem's BitInstant, right?
I used
Because when
BitInstant several times.
spoke in Vegas, he talked about that, and I remembered when that was like all the talk of the town was BitInstant.
Yeah, it was basically a way that you could get your money fronted to you while it processed on Mt. Gox, because Mt. Gox was slow as crap and it took forever. But the thing is at that time was the question that happened after Mt. Gox crashed is, will Bitcoin survive this? Will Bitcoin be able to survive? And the weird thing about this bear market is that is not the question, but that seems to be the question that people want you to think is going on. Like, oh, the price has dropped. Oh no, it's a disaster. It's going to go away. Like, that's so crazy. There was a much better argument for it back then when we didn't even know if we would ever have a viable exchange, that could, handle Bitcoin. And so to me, people that's why I don't think we're going to be in a prolonged bear market. I think we are getting close to the end. It's so much different and such a different field than it was, back then. So,
And there's so many more people in it.
It's crazy.
That it's just exponentially more users all around in it. So I've read multiple articles about how there were so few people back then in the space that it was a prolonged bear, but with so many more people involved and so many institutions that are kind of pulling the dump trucks up to the bay, if you will, and getting ready, that type of activity that's going to shorten it. From the long and short of it is that it's going to shorten the bear market because of all of the additional people in it, which is really interesting to think about what the future is going to hold if it's just going to be short kind of corrections as we go up. But when in doubt, zoom out was my favorite saying back when Mt. Gox happened, because the graph was still like, completely up. But that was a nightmare scenario, Mt. Gox. That was 48 hours after I had that conversation with my parents, explaining to them, and they bought one Bitcoin for like, I think it was $600.
Oh, it's 600. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just all the way down to like 100, I think, right after that.
Do they still have it?
Yeah, they held on to it.
Nice.
And all their friends like in Florida are coming to them and asking them questions about it, because they're like, oh, you guys are, you've been in there for a while, and become like Bitcoin experts down in Florida because they've been for 4 years. It's pretty funny.
That's hilarious. Yeah. And with the people that we were talking about, like remaining in Bitcoin, or, like just how many people are in it, like one of the things to me that's the most telling about the future of cryptocurrency is all of the big executives from fintech companies and financial service, banks that have moved over to crypto. Like, those people see what's coming. They see the foresight. So it's not just like the community that's growing, but it's like the professional executive level person is also now coming over to crypto. And they're not coming for no reason. They're not coming because crypto is a Ponzi scheme, So
and I think that a lot of people, when they do think about the the shift that's going to happen in this sort of revolution, they immediately think that it's going to replace the actual fiat currency,
Yeah.
which is such an aggressive thought. But the reality is that all these institutions, all we're talking about here is them adding it to what currently exists. And, there can be a transition in the future, but it's not going to happen, an immediate flip. It's going to be where they currently operate their business. And if they see that there's demand, they will increase and help the profitability of their business. They will add digital assets. And that's kind of the transition into this whole flip that everybody talks about, where it's like, a full-on large percentage of the entire world's currency is Bitcoin. So I'm always confused about when people say like, oh yeah, everyone in the world is going to be using this as the currency, but it has to happen in stages. And this next stage is just merely adding it to the portfolio, like Fidelity offering it to their customers. That's like,
Yeah. Well, I do think it's an option for it to be the majority of the world's country or currency, but not the United States, not China, not Russia. Talked about a lot on my channel how in a lot of third world countries, it costs more money for them to print the money than the money is worth. And so in situations like that, it definitely makes sense. But you're right, it's definitely got to stage in. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen overnight. So, but let's see. We've had some questions. Let me see. Somebody said, do they need to take Coinbase off their phone? I would suggest not holding any crypto on your phone at all. Zero. So somebody asked, do you know much about Ethereum and Tron? Are those two you know about at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've been getting more interested in the Tron concepts. I know that a lot of the stuff on there right now is really scammy and really kind of gambling related, which I don't really partake in.
That's pretty much that's EOS. That's pretty much everything right now as far as the dApps go. That's the big thing, the EOS Dice or whatever it's called, Tron Dice. Yeah.
And like the FOMO games where it's like just a new face of a Ponzi scheme of some kind.
Yep.
But I think that they are exciting. I mean, I do like the idea of like innovating and having a free flow of ideas that can be applied using the technology is what we need, just for all projects, like all boats rise. And I do think that when it comes to those projects bettering the whole herd, I'm all for it. Like if it does take gambling and these weird kind of games to innovate, then I'm all for it. I think that it's helping.
Well, if you look back at the beginnings of the internet, when it really started taking off, it was gambling and porn. Those were the two things that kind of, led the not completion of the internet, but the filling up of the internet almost. That's definitely something I've read a lot about, which it's unfortunate. You wish it was more positive things, but it is what it is. So somebody had the question: do you think that Tron will ever overtake Ethereum?
No, I don't think so personally, because the amount of developers that are working on Ethereum right now is pretty jaw-dropping. Mm-hmm. Like I think it was 28,000 in total, like this year alone. So that number, if Tron can bring as talented developers that came to Ethereum, which I'm not saying it's not possible, but I personally think that it's not going to even come close to what Ethereum's done. And it's kind of it's an interesting strategy, because Tron is very much taking the finance and capital markets approach, which I kind of like, where they're doing M&As, like they're literally acquiring companies like BitTorrent and stuff like that, which is very much a financial mindset, whereas Ethereum is taking the development mindset of like, we need to focus on scalability issues and plasma and all these different concepts. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those two taking those two different approaches. But I'm overall, I like them both. I like that people are building on them. That's kind of the first and foremost thing, because that's what moves us forward is where the developers are, as Steve Ballmer says.
Yeah.
Developers.
He knows a little bit about that, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. Such a great clip.
Yeah. It's so good. So we got a couple other questions coming in. Trying to pick which one. Maybe you don't know. Do you know anything about 5G?
5G?
Yeah, like for cell phone network.
No, I don't.
It's crazy. So I did a whole video on it. Well, I did a news video where I talked about, I read this article, explaining how 5G is going to totally revolutionize the world in cryptocurrency. Basically, somehow, and I don't know the mechanics of it, but somehow with 5G, you'll be able to, like, when you are sending a crypto transaction and it's kind of lost in space for a little bit.
Uh-huh.
You can't figure out where it is. Like, it's not, it said it was sent, it wasn't there. Somehow with this 5G, with the network running much faster, there should be no downtime on transactions going forward. Like, it'll be here or it'll be there. So I don't know the mechanics, how it works. They also said it's like you will have the power of download speed on your phones. It'll be like right now downloading 33 full-length movies in, I think it's at a second. Maybe it was a minute. Either way, though, that's insane for your phone. But there's also this, after I put it out, I got a lot of hate in the comments about it. And the whole thing is, like, speaking of the environment, like we were talking about earlier, there's, like, supposed to be a really dangerous bent to it. Like, there were all kinds of, when they were doing tests, like, it was killing birds out of the sky and all kinds of stuff. So somebody asked about that. I didn't know if you knew about it. It's something we just started talking about. Yeah, definitely something to look into. If you just search, like, cryptocurrency 5G, you can find an article about it that basically talks about, all the good stuff about it. But then if you want to see all the weird conspiracy theories about it, just go, you can go to the YouTubes, which is fine because you're probably there a good bit.
I've been, as I dig down the rabbit hole of masternodes, and I've been talking to the top kind of developers about it and what they think, because their whole kind of appeal is not only, the block rewards for helping support the network with a node, but it is the near instant transactions. Mm. So I'm really interested to see, like, is it a proof of work concept, or is it just sort of a network of, like, a traditional phone company that's doing it?
Yeah, it's supposedly Verizon is the one, and okay. I think they just started actually testing it in South Korea, I believe, this week. So yeah, something to keep listening for, because basically what the article I read said explained that this is the key to adoption is this 5G network. And then once again, a lot of people in my comment section, like, they were on me on this story. Some people were positive about it, but some people were, and they weren't being negative to me. I mean, they were just talking about, the flaws in that article. And, like, I brought up the argument that, like, okay, well, great. Well, you have all these unbanked people in the world who have cell phones, but, like, if you download a wallet, like, if you download the Cardano wallet, it takes, like, over an hour on a really good connection just to download the wallet. So if you have that cell phone that all of a sudden can download it 1,000 times faster, like, you have a better chance to be able to participate in cryptocurrency and be able to be your own bank, right? Which is part of what crypto is all about. But then people were saying, like, well, yeah, but they still got to have a 5G phone. And then a lot of other people in other countries, like, they get the hand-me-down phones and stuff like that. So I don't know what it'll really do, but it's a very interesting concept. And somebody sent me that article that has nothing to do with crypto. He's just a friend of mine. And he was like, oh, I found this about crypto. And he sent it to me. And I kid you not, it wasn't 10 minutes later after he sent me that article and I was reading it, I was watching the Cowboys and the Saints game on Thursday night, and then all of a sudden a Verizon commercial popped out talking about how, or it didn't pop out on my screen, it came on the TV, and it was talking about how they are getting ready to start 5G, and this is going to be as revolutionary. 5G is going to be as revolutionary as the first cell phone. So it's crazy. It's definitely something to look into. So, but I guess that's it. It's coming up on an hour. Can you just tell everybody where they can find you at, Steve?
Yeah. At Hack Crypto is my YouTube channel. Hackcrypto.io is where I kind of aggregate a lot of the basics for the fundamentals. If you guys are completely new to crypto, or you know someone that's new to crypto, they can go to the website and learn the basics. And yeah, YouTube channel. I'm doing a new Masternode series on proof of stake, and it's kind of wild. I'm learning everything there is to know about masternodes in real time as I'm doing it. But yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me on Twitter at Hack Crypto.
Awesome. And you guys can actually get the link to his YouTube channel down below in the video description. I did put it at the top, so you guys can do that. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Steve. It's been really good talking to you, and definitely look forward to having you on the channel again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Thanks, everybody, in the comment section. My phone's a little slow tonight, so I couldn't get to all of them.